Hi y'all, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to the review of the somewhat controversial Jeffree Star Cosmetics Bloodlust palette. Now, he had teased that he was going to be doing some kind of purple moment for a while now, and people were kind of like, yeah, all right, we got the reds, we got the blue, you know, let's get the purple. I'm down, we're down. And then he did his reveal, and a large amount of people were fairly underwhelmed with the level of purple and the level of gradation offered within this palette. There were people who were like mocking up their own palettes and stuff like that looked absolutely amazing. And I will admit, looking at this and thinking about the gradation and the commitment to color theory in his other palettes, this one does seem to be a little bit kind of just a little bit disjointed, because you've got the purple, but then you've got the red, and then you've got this like greeny teal shade, and you're like, okay, then we got the green, two more neutrally shades right here, and you're just kind of like, well, where's the massive depth? Where's the deep, dark, decadent, delicious royal purples that this sort of packaging would kind of evoke? And also, when you're charging on in with a name like Bloodlust, you are expecting some vampiric royalty realness. Like, looking at the outer packaging here, you're like, okay, we've got this deep dark here. We do have the red with the blood dripping up down there. We got this pale. We got gold filigree going on here, but there's not a gold in the palette. I just feel like, to me, and considering his past color stories and how the packaging typically doesn't lie about what's inside, this one here was a little bit of a miss in that department. I mean, purple and gold, those are like the two royalty colors, which is what the theme that we're procking on. And if you think about the Blue Blood palette, it had, you know, blues and silvers and whatever, and then opened it up, you're like, okay, all right, I can see the aesthetic of the packaging carrying on into the palette. And so I completely understand a lot of people's kind of just like, what? You know, their confusion as to why this just seems a little bit pasty and ashy, especially for those of y'all with the deeper melanin. You know, your girl here is, you know, white, and so these colors, they're gonna show up on me and they're gonna do that, but I am concerned about how actually inclusive this palette is gonna be for a wider range of an audience. But that being said, this thing is gonna run you $54. I know a lot of people had some issues with the velour packaging. I think it is a beautiful aesthetic. It is. I mean, I'm gonna spend the rest of my life lint rolling this because I have 3 cats, and if there's anything they love to do, they love to shed. And if anyone is a pet owner, you know that there is no sacred place when it comes to pet hair. I'm a little disappointed in this bit here. It doesn't feel like a very heavy metal. These cute little dots going on right there, those are gonna pop right off. Like, I could probably just ever so delicately flick them off. I'm not gonna do that. But when he's always being like, oh, the quality, and I'm such a whatever when it comes to the packaging, having these just little pasty dots kind of just pressed on the fabric rather than being like super impressed into it, that's, I feel like, a little bit of a missed opportunity and kind of not really giving us what we're typically used to when it comes to his level of quality. But with all that being said, we are going to swatch this bad boy for you all. It is what I'm wearing on my Royal Excellent Peepers today. I started off with Royal Pain right here. Then I went into High King. Then we did Blood Queen. I did a bit of Vivid Mood. For a minute, I thought that said Vivid Moo, and I'm like, what inside joke am I missing on that? And then underneath here, I did go into Vivid Mood and Blood Queen. Then I used Betrayal right here, all up in here, and Take the Crown was my inner corner highlight. So let's just get into swatching this, starting with Your Majesty, which is another white setting blending out shade. I mean, I guess looking at it, it's almost like a gray grayish white, which I can understand works for some things. I mean, it is beautiful, smooth, and pigmented, so at least it has that going for it. But y'all know, if I had my druthers, you know, we wouldn't have these little pasty white setting shades, and we would add a little bit more depth and deepen it up in the palette. I consider these kind of shades throwaway shades. Then we have Take the Crown. Y'all know I absolutely love his shimmers. Then we have Deviant right here. Just going on like that right there. I mean, so ashy, so pasty. Next up is Beauty Sleep. I will say a lot of the standouts in this palette are actually the shimmers, because they're just these two right here, Beauty Sleep and Take the Crown, are just absolutely stunning. Then we have Wet Jewel, which is again, oh, it is so pretty. Then Royal Pain, which is a really beautiful, it's almost like a rusty tomato shade. I have no idea. I never went to a color theory class. But here we have them right here and here and here. Like, that shimmer is just so pretty, so special, so gorgeous. It's almost like the eyeshadow version of his Supreme Frost, because it's got like that hint of sparkle that doesn't like dissipate out into the atmosphere. It stays on your lid and adds a little bit of etherealness. Next up is Dungeon, which is a beautiful, like, deep, dark, decadent purple. Then we have Scandal Water, which is kind of like, I really like this shade because these kind of shades, you know, aren't necessarily something that you see on the market all the time. It's like this true periwinkle shade. Then Sworn Enemy, which is a beautiful, I mean, this green, y'all know I love me a green shimmer moment. Then right here, so smooth and nice. Then we have that periwinkle shade, and then this green one, which is pretty. It's like a khaki, but it's got kind of like a gold undertone, which I guess is the gold in the palette, although I would have liked a nice cha-cha-cha-cha shimmery straight up gold. Then we have Pink Magic, which is the same formula as Wet Jewel, which is just this beautiful. I hope he continues to do stuff with this formula because it is absolutely gorgeous. Then Bleeding Heart right here, which is a beautiful, like, it's shimmer, but it's like not super crazy shimmery. And then Executioner, which is, I'm not quite sure how I feel about that one, but here we have them right here. I mean, that purple is just, these kind of shades here are kind of what I was hoping to get from like the Melt Cosmetics Millennial Pinks palette. And the red one, which is so pretty, so pretty. And then this one right here, which is, it's a really heckin' smooth black, but I absolutely despise matte shades that have shimmer put into them, because I understand there's a whatever technique to keep that shimmer and that glitter in the shade, but y'all, your girl don't have time for that. I mean, I ain't gonna be spending an extra 5 minutes trying to tappy tap or figure out how I'm supposed to blend this shadow when you could have just given us something matte and awesome without that shimmery, glittery. Moving on to the other arm because we're running out of space. We have High King, which is a really beautiful purple. I mean, the purples in here, as sparse as they may seem, they're really nice. Then Monarchy, which is probably going to be one of my favorite transition shades of all time for doing neutral looks. Here we have them right here. I absolutely love that purple right there. That is one of the shades that I look at and I'm like, that is what I think of when I'm thinking purple. Next up, Blood Queen right here. Then Vile Serpent, which is, I mean, I understand it's kind of like, what is it doing up in this palette? But it is beautiful. And then Betrayal, which is so pretty. So here we have those right here. So here we have the color story going on right here. You know, there's an interesting level of gradation. It definitely isn't the most depth. It does have a lot of standout shades. I would say like this one right here, the shimmers, you know, this periwinkle one, this green. But all in all, I can understand why people were a little bit miffed when it came to, you know, where's all the purple? Okay, so typically, like I like to start out with, I like to just kind of go from a quality standpoint because, you know, color story aside, that's something that you obviously look into and you know what you're investing in when you purchase it, but you know, you can't tell from just looking at it what the quality is going to be. We have had some hit and miss. I felt like the conspiracy palette was a little bit hit and miss and wasn't exactly 110% consistent, but the quality in this bad boy is absolutely gorgeous. It is on par with Blood Sugar, Blue Blood, the Alien palette. I think the quality on this, the mattes are super soft and buttery and pigmented. They blend gorgeous, even the deepest of the deep. The shimmers, I feel like a lot of the standouts in this palette are the shimmers. This one, this one, this one, this one, and this one are just absolutely gorgeous. They're very opaque. They give a lot of cha-cha. You can pick them up easily with a brush. I was very happy with how these shimmers were formulated, especially these two, which are something that I don't think I've seen from him before, but if I have, I think he's definitely perfected them at this point, because these give you that high shine, you know, a little bit of sparkle, a little bit of metallic gleam. I really hope that this is a formulation that he takes and continues to do in his future palettes. Like I said, the mattes are really nice and smooth. Y'all know how I feel about the pasty setting shade, you know, blending out shade. I mean, I understand a couple of y'all have said that these like white shades are really good for blending out harsher colors. Like, I understand that, but at the same time, it's like, why are we trying to market this as like something for a makeup artist? Because I'm sorry, I don't think a makeup artist is going to be wanting to lug this thing all around town. And maybe they are. I am not a paid whatever makeup artist. I have done some freelancing, but I feel like typically when it comes to their kits, you know, sleek and minimalistic is more desirable than big, giant, clunky hexagon. So I don't know why we're trying to include shades and incorporate things that are for a different demographic than who are pretty much purchasing this palette. So I do wish that he had just nixed that shade. Honestly, if he nixed that shade too, these two shades here, and added two more purples, that would have been a better depth to the palette, would have given it more purple, would have made it, you know, more viable, more just more depth. And I think that's honestly my biggest pet peeve with this is the lack of gradation. Like, the two darkest purples is this one and this one right here. And then all the other purples, I mean, if we're being honest, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 purples. Which, you know, when you've got a palette that's touting itself as bloodlust, and with this, like I said before, with this deep, dark, decadent, delicious packaging, where is that depth? Where is that darkness? Where is, you know, the lust and the vampiric and the whatever, the dark royalty? Because while the color story is nice, this is a palette that I would have bought from, you know, another brand, not just because, you know, if ColourPop came out with this, I'd be like, oh yeah, what's up? That's pretty. But when you're as big of a brand as Jeffree Star and you're so big into the aesthetic and the selling and everything that's going on with this, to have something that skews more like pastel-y pink for purple for the majority with a bit of splash of purple, it is just kind of like, okay. Like, it's pretty. Do not get me wrong. I like it. The quality is good. This is something that I'm going to continue to reach for and use. I love that shade. I really do love this Vile Serpent. It reminds me of a shade he had in the Androgyny palette. You know, all the purples are absolutely beautiful. The shimmers are good. Even though I absolutely despise the fact that this black has glitter in it, it does blend beautifully for being a dark black lilac. So from a quality and a user-friendly or just a user standpoint, you know, you're just like, okay, all right, the quality's good. I'm not going to say, oh my goodness, he totally bombed this and the formula's all kinds of whack. No, this is quality, I would say, like I said, is on par with Blood Sugar, Blue Blood, and Alien. So I can definitely vouch for the formulas in here being that if you get this, you'll be able to expect the same eyeshadow quality experience that you've had from his other palettes. But part of the majority of the problem here is that have with this gradation. I will say right now, if you have the Norvina Pro palette number uno, you ain't gonna need this. I mean, yeah, there might be some differentiation, but in all honesty, you get more shadow in this and you get just about the same amount of purples. That's very similar to that this Royal Pain shade right here. And you've got sort of the same level of gradation in this palette that you do in that one. So obviously take that into consideration if you already have this, or if you've been kind of considering, you know, either this one or that one, or if you're someone who doesn't support Jeffree Star and you're looking for a palette that is going to give you the same whatever as this one is a very good bet for you. And also, if you just want to kind of bite that purple bug, I mean, ColourPop has got the Lilac You a lot, and the It's My Pleasure palette. I mean, these are $12 each. You can spend $24 and get a pretty good amount of purple going on here that is very similar to what is offered in the Bloodlust palette. I mean, yeah, some of the shimmers may not be quite as magical, quite as ethereal, but if you're going for just, you know, kind of that similarity, you are going to be able to get the same kind of effect purchasing this or the Norvina Pro palette. Because, I mean, yeah, this is nice, but in all honesty, that lack of definition is what really killed this palette. You know, the fact that it's just not as dark as it could be. The fact that the purples included are fairly similar to some other purples that have already come out. And I feel like out of a lot of his palette, some people looked at this and they're like, oh, it's kind of disjointed. You know, I don't really see the disjointing. You know, the red goes with the purple very much. This color, although does seem kind of out of left field, goes very well with the purples. But I feel like compared to his other more curated color stories, this is just not as wow factor. You know, I'm gonna reach for it. I'm going to use the shizz out of that shade. I'm going to reach it for all these beautiful shimmers. I do love this shade here. I mean, I'm going to reach for it. I'm going to use it. I think these colors are beautiful, but it's just the simple fact that the colors are beautiful, but you can get the colors from stuff that already exists and even from stuff that is a much lower price point. So if you are someone who doesn't want to support Jeffree Star, or someone who just wants to get into purple, or someone who can't afford the $54 price tag for that bougie hexagonal velvet velour packaging, you got ColourPop, you got the price point for the Norvina isn't, that's about on par with this. But you've got the ColourPop. Juvia's Place just released that one purpley palette. Ophir released a little 5-pan whatever palette. You know, there are other options. This palette is not like it was released, it's like the only thing you could get. Part of what made Blue Blood and Blood Sugar so outstanding is because they were two color stories that hadn't really been cornered on the market before. You know, yeah, we had Modern Renaissance, but his color story was more vibrant red and fire truck red and like bright pink, you know, whereas Modern Renaissance, someone who is more into neutrals could get away with. Blood Sugar was kind of taking the Modern Renaissance theme and taking it all the way balls to the wall, you know, and while this palette is just kind of like, okay, all right, you know, it's not so much that the market has been cornered on this, but it definitely has already been done and there are more options out there than this. So I can vouch for the quality. I am not upset with my purchase at all. I am going to be using this, but I feel like he could have done a little bit more for this to make it more strikingly purple, you know, and I understand that maybe some people are going to be like, well, not everybody likes a palette with all the one colors, you know, we need some other colors. You know, if you want a palette like that, you know, don't by the purple. You know what I mean? You know what you're getting into when you're touting it as like a purple moment. So quality, absolutely love it. It's same on par with everything else that he has. Packaging, I'm not entirely mad about, except for, like I said, the fact that I know for a fact these little dots right here, and probably eventually this little whatever is gonna fall off. I feel like for the premium that he charges for his palettes and for how proud he is for his construction, I would hope that this would have been just a little bit more luxurious. Obviously, I'd love to hear what y'all have to say. I know a couple of you were waiting for me to review this. A couple of you were like, girl, I got that shiz right when it dropped. So obviously, I would love to hear y'all's opinions on that down below. And also let us know down below if there are other purple palettes that, could be purchased by people who don't have the money for Jeffree Star or don't want to support him, because like I said, while the palette is nice, it's just a color story that, isn't as, oh my goodness, this is unique, this is amazing, we have never seen this before. There are other things that exist on the market that you could get the same look with than the Bloodlust palette. But that is my review. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you, and as always, keep it real.